So again, very well put together, very entertaining. I'm curious to know, how did this project come together? Was it filmed during COVID? Just tell us a little bit more about Chill Girl.
Yeah, so before COVID happened, all four of us we all went to college together, and in Chicago at Northwestern, so we'd all moved to
Northwestern!
LA.
Woo!
Oh!
Go Cats!
You guys had said Chicago, and me and Jess were like,
Yeah, we're like, can it
be?
be?
Like, Chicago's a big city, don't be dramatic. But here, there we go.
Oh, that's crazy. So we were at NU, and then we all moved to LA together, and at first, like, the three of us were like, we want to create something that we can put on our reels. Like, we don't know, we just moved here, we like want more material to show off. So we started just like brainstorming kind of ideas of what we could showcase.
And then the world closed. So we took that feeling of like, what the fuck are we doing with our lives? And the anxiety and the culture that we live in, of especially in LA, trying to play it cool even though everything is crumbling around you. And we took that and made, it's a 7-episode series, so the anxiety builds throughout for each character in their own way, and trying to cope with pretending that you're fine when you're not. And yeah, we filmed it over COVID too.
Yeah, we also, like, you guys filmed in like deep COVID. We did not have any vaccines yet. We were just masked and praying and doing a lot of testing. No one got COVID. But we also, like, we're very thankful to our roommates and the people that we lived with, because we had like, it wasn't shown in these episodes, but in the last 2 episodes, there's 2 big party scenes. And we just had our friends that we lived with, like, changing and then running back through the scene in a different outfit. Like, make it look like there were a bunch of people there. But we also, it's probably clear as well, like, we didn't have a very big budget, and we very much, like, wrote it to be shot, so a lot of the scenes are in apartments and free parks and, like, places where we actually could make something, because we knew from the beginning that this was not just going to be a script. Like I said, we were actors that needed footage. That was like the main genesis of the idea. So we very much wrote it in places where we know we could actually make it happen. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So was a lot of it, was it scripted, or was it part scripted, part improv? How did you guys approach it?
It was definitely like mostly scripted. I'd say 90% scripted.
Okay.
Yeah.
We wanted to allow the freedom to improvise on set, but it pretty much stayed according to script.
That's awesome. And how does it feel for it to be world premiere here at New York City Web Fest?
We got so good. You can probably tell we're very green. We're very excited. This is like our first festival ever, first anything ever. So we're very excited. So yeah,
Congrats. All right, so before I open the floor for questions, I'm curious to know, we saw 4 of the episodes. You said there's 7 total, but I'm curious to know which one of the episodes was your most fun, or the one that you enjoyed filming the most.
Max, you want to start this one? We'll do it individually.
Sure, yeah. I think the first one probably for me, just because that, the place where we filmed it, like, we didn't have an art gallery, and that was written into the script, and that was, hard as one of the producers to be like, okay, where are we going to get an art gallery? We have 0 budget. But luckily we had access to a house, and we just had this amazing creative team of people who were willing to, like, bring their own art and bring their own hammers and nails and show up and turn the walls into this art gallery. And our friend Chris, who plays Clementa, was like, I'll bring my own costume. And, like, just having all of those people who would want to come together and then actually seeing it shot in that space was so exciting. We had a ton of extras that day of friends who wanted to show up and be in it. So I thought that was like a moment of just seeing everything kind of come together, and like seeing when it was initially this script and then an idea, and trying to work through all the logistics of it over many months and COVID. And so it was just very rewarding to see it all come together at that moment.
Yeah, I think probably the first episode too for me was the most fun, just because of everything you just said. And also one of my fondest memories on set was when the opening shot of the first episode, we're sitting on a car admiring LA, but that wasn't the original plan. One of our assistant producers was like, I know a spot. It's free, it's open,
because
everyone goes
like,
there.
Beautiful scenic LA, like,
you're like, cool,
yeah.
Thanks, Erica.
Yeah.
So we hike up this mountain in Silver Lake, and we're in someone's garage, and we're like, this feels not okay to do.
Like trespassing.
Yeah. To put it simply, trespassing. And she's like, no, everyone hangs out here, it's totally fine. So we're like halfway through the shoot, And the person comes home and he's like, "What are you doing in my garage?"
Like, cannot part.
And we run.
No,
No one
point.
says anything.
Yeah.
We're like, "Goodbye, thank you, sir." So we changed it to the cart. But that like sticks in my head is like every time I see the first episode, I'm like, we almost got arrested.
I think my favorite episode is episode 6, which we didn't see, which the one after the last one we just saw. Selfishly, partially because I directed it. I actually hated directing, didn't enjoy it at all. That was the first time I ever directed and probably the last, but I realized that I prefer being on the other side of the camera. But what I liked about that episode is it very much like straddles two worlds that are constantly flipping back and forth. And so you have Claire and Emily at this, like, at the gorgeous, glamorous L party, and then you have Damien and Jess just like home and talking about their anxieties, and then you're watching those same anxieties through Claire and Emily's eyes in a like completely different context. And I think it's one of those things that I feel like I've discovered about our early 20s of like, oh, everyone is spiraling just in different contexts. So I really enjoyed that, and it was, while I found it panicking, it was fun to dip my toes into directing and be like, cool, I'm not going to do that again. I would rather have someone else do it for me. Thank you very much.
You did a great job.
Yeah, truly underselling yourself. It was great. My favorite was the last episode, which you didn't see either, but to film, episode 6 was my favorite, but to film, there was like a final party sequence, and like everybody who worked on the project was there. We were all there, and it
Just
just,
you needed them to be extras.
Yeah.
Like, take off your headphones, you're in the party now.
so it was like that scene was like the rap party, which was really fun.
Yeah, on camera, totally.
That's fun. So I know you mentioned that you didn't like directing, and it was your first time. So I'm just curious, because I know you were all trying to create content for your reels and things like that. So before you started the project, was it the intention that you would produce, you would direct, each of you, or how did you come up with those kind of roles?
Well, when we moved to LA, a lot of people were like, "You're an actor, make your own shit. Just start making stuff." And we're like, okay, sounds good. I guess that's what we do now. And Jessie has a lot of phenomenal writing experience, so we definitely like hopped on her coattails in a lot of ways in terms of writing, but had so much fun together too, because like I had very little experience in terms of like overall story arc, and I had no way to put that together in my mind, but I loved doing like the really individual dialogue stuff. So we really worked together well, but she was the only one with I think legitimate writing experience. And then I did want to direct. I'm being dramatic. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I was just kind of like, I know I don't need to pursue this anymore. But I really enjoyed directing them. What I didn't enjoy doing is directing while I was on screen. That's very hard, and I don't know how people do that. I've been watching a lot of Handmaid's Tale, and Elizabeth Moss like directs every freaking episode, and I'm like, how are you doing that when you're also there? But I get it. But yeah, it was kind of just like this was the first time for a lot of people that are primarily actors, we don't really get to ever be on the side of the table that is like making decisions or in production meetings. So that was really cool because we had a lot of say in how things turn out. Like, so often as actors, you shoot something and then you like wait 14 months and then it comes out and you're like, oh, well, that's not the take I would, okay, that's fine. And so we got to like actually have a lot of decisions about where our characters were going and like why it mattered, and that was really cool. And the first time that we had to come across all these like logistical things. Max was an amazing producer, and it's very interesting the like talks that we were having for the first time of like, you know, there would be a certain scene where we're like, this is essential to the story, you could never cut it, and they're like, too bad, we're not getting a waterfall, so you're gonna have to figure it out and come up with something else. And it was really fun for us to be on the other side of the production team. But we were also really lucky in the sense that we had a really big team. I don't know if you can tell in the credits, but we had like 40 people involved in this. They were pretty much all Northwestern alums and all like really excited about their own individual jobs. So that was great in that it was really like the collective effort of all these people that were also fresh out of college and just like wanted to do something great towards their career goal, like people that were wanting to be DPs and costume designers and editors. So it was kind of like there were so many boxes where people were automatically going to be fitting into, because that's like, this is what I do, thank you for giving me an opportunity. So it was also great to not feel as much like we were, you know, robbing people of favors, because they were also wanting to do the things that we asked them to. But because we were in charge, we had the freedom to kind of pop in wherever we wanted.
It also gave us such a deep appreciation for the other crafts on set. I know a lot of creators have been talking about that, but like I had no idea the magnitude that went into sound.
Color correcting? Haven't even heard of it.
Who is she? So that was like such a wonderful, phenomenal part of being on the creative team, is like hiring people and having them be like, oh no, I know how to do this. And we're like, great, teach me everything and I want nothing to do with it ever again. It was so fascinating. There's so many talented people out there. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Great. Does anyone have any questions for Chill Girl?
I wanted to talk about, like, I know you guys were talking about how you wanted something for your reels, and that this is sort of why you put it together, but I'm very curious about, like, just why you chose this subject, because I gotta tell you, it's, as somebody that's, like, older than in my 20s, like, that really hits a nerve. Like, this woman meeting a guy, and it goes to, like, black and white Hollywood, and romanticizing it in her head, like, it hit a nerve watching it. So I'm wondering, like, why you chose to use that theme as something to showcase your talents.
That part is just how my brain works. So I'm crazy. No, but
that's why people laughed right away. I think a lot more people do that than you realize.
Yeah, and I think that was the beauty of having us fresh from college being thrust into the world in such a time of uncertainty,
Right.
coming together and being like, well, let's not focus on the world's problems. Let's focus on what makes us internally spiral. Because that is more relatable than, doing a show about the pandemic in my eyes. It's like everyone has felt that, and I appreciate you saying that. So I think just like us sitting there and figuring out I feel like I lost my train of thought.
No, you're doing great. I agree. I also think one of the other things in terms of why this story particularly came out is we really wanted to make like the city of LA also kind of a character within the series. And the ways that like we interacted with it and how the characters were shaped by just where they were, I think was also very influential about like that stage of life where kind of the only thing you have to latch on to is like a move somewhere new. So that's what we are dealing with right now. And then all the kind of like anxieties about friendships and relationships and work and like power and success all came almost through the filter of like Los Angeles itself.
Right.
Yeah, the absurdity of it all.
Right.
Yeah, there's something cathartic about this too, because we are all spiraling before this. I feel like not like crazy. I mean, maybe now too, but like doing this, like
Not long ago.
yeah. But doing this, like, I feel really like put our energy into something that we could feel grounded in and confident about.
And I think the one other thing that was exciting was because we had this story that was so relatable to so many people who we knew, who we were friends with moving out, it was easy to find people who wanted to be on this team to make things. Like, we had 7 episodes and 5 different directors, and so we kind of just brought people in who we'd worked with before, who we knew and we trusted, but who we thought, like, you would also relate to this experience. You would also understand what's going on here, and can kind of bring your own sort of fresh perspective to something that we know that all of us are kind of going through together. So it did make it much more accessible to all the people who wanted to have a creative say on the team.
I also, last thing about that. I also think it's really validating to have an experience where you think it's really dumb to be upset over, but it means the world. Like that guy thing. Everyone, whether whoever you're into, has had that experience. Maybe not. I hope not. But I think it was really comforting in writing it and exploring it and being like, this isn't as stupid as you feel in the moment. It's totally valid to be upset and spiral and have it feel like the weight of the world is on you.
I remember watching something, I don't know, it was an interview, and she was talking about her friend who was like a psychologist who had to treat like refugees. You know what I mean? Like, they had gone through war, and the doctor's like, how will I treat them? And all these people were talking about was like, I like this guy. Seriously, this is what people stress about. Relationships is what people stress about more than we realize, no matter what traumas we've been through. So I think that's really cool that you chose that as a theme, not realizing that it's universal, and in 20 years from now, people will still be able to relate to it. Because I was like, why is this called Chill Girl? And I was like, oh, I know what's coming.
Spoiler alert, they're not chill at all. I also think like that is kind of like in your early 20s, like post-grad, relationships are kind of the only thing you really had to latch on to. It's like suddenly like you don't really have like a family of your own yet. You're not really part of like the family you grew up with in the same way, and like your job is probably absolute crap, and like that's not going to be like your main identity. So like the thing that I think we spend most of the time thinking about is our relationships with other people and like how we're forming them and if they matter and if we're doing a good job within those contexts. So I think like that was also an easy
and with her
theme.
Character, he was from high school, right?
Yeah,
So
they met
that's
in
like
high school,
such
yeah.
an innocent time, and
Yeah, the schoolboy crush for sure, and building up who you think a person is, and having to be so let down from it. It's relatable.
Very much so. Any other questions from the crowd? Okay.
I don't know
We'll
if
get
I'm
that
gonna
right
ask
off.
this question. I'm like sitting over here trying to figure it out. Okay, so you mentioned that you didn't love directing, but was
That was
there
the documentary.
anything? And you guys are all actors. Are you also
More of a producer.
More of a producer. Okay. Were there any other hats that you were surprised that you enjoyed wearing while you were doing this?
Yeah, I think being like a creator, I freaking loved. Like for me, like what I want for my career is the like women I admire who have their own, like a Reese Witherspoon who just is like, oh, I'm gonna make a production company so I can make whatever I want, and I love this, and I'm gonna do it, and I love that. I loved being in all those meetings, even when it was frustrating and like way more to stress about. It was very interesting being on set as an actor when we were in character and like having to force myself to not think about the fact that like that light looks kind of stupid and like because that's never something I have to worry about. Like it's only me, and so this like made me very aware. That sounded bad, you know what I mean? This made me very aware of like even within the moment there's like so much going on from everyone's perspective. I also, again, being a drama queen, like I did enjoy parts of directing, I totally did. I was just more like I felt the most myself being an actor. But that's why it was so great that we had our own project that I was like, yeah, I'll direct an episode. That's going to be fun. And I'm very proud of the product that I produced from that. I really am. But I don't know. It's like, if it's a path I'm going to go on for a long time or whatever. But I think like having creative control, being able to make decisions, being able to defend these characters like in production meetings was great. Like it's probably pretty obvious, like they're relatively personal, and it was great to be like, no, that scene does matter, that joke is funny, and we're gonna keep it. Yeah, so definitely like being in the room, actors so rarely get to have any power in that sense. That was great. I love that.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, I think a big part that I struggle with, because I do have a writing background, but something that I struggle with is pitching myself and pitching a project and making people as excited as I am. So I was so grateful to sit in on every single meeting and interview tons of directors and every crew member, and to make them convinced that this is the project they want to work on was such a learning experience. And I still struggle with it, obviously. It'll be a lifelong experience and learning thing, but that was the most beneficial part to me, is like, I know what I'm saying and I know what we're selling and I love it, so you should too.
Yeah, I found writing to be like pretty daunting before this process, but I always wanted to dabble in it, and like having Jessie as a guide and understanding how to create a character arc and the story arc was really helpful, so I feel more confident engaging in that in the future.
I just thought for me the whole post-production process, where like my previous producing experience had been in like short sketches, which are very fun, but there's like after editing there's very little post, and so to like have conversations with a sound designer is so interesting, and especially the conversations with our music team, who were incredible, and like I just don't have that sort of like vocabulary, so to be like, I want it to sound like and like they take that and like turn it into like music was the most amazing thing to be a part of.
They really deserve a shout out, because this was one of the things that was so reflective of us being incredibly grateful for the Northwestern community we came from, because they were just friends from college who make good music. And they're like, you're making a show, can we score it?
Yes.
I'm like, it's that easy? Oh yeah, sure. Like we're like, yeah, you can make a theme song. That's so fun. And then they scored like the whole damn thing, like just because they wanted to. And it was so cool, because it was like literally bringing our vision to life through those stupid conversations of like, I don't know, this is a little too this way and we want it more that way. And their brain knows what that means when ours does not.
Stage Wombat Collective is their
their
name
name?
on Spotify if you want to check them out. Shout out.
Yeah, the music was very good. I'm glad that you brought that. I forgot to ask about that.
You had a question in the back?
Yeah. So I was gonna ask a similar question to Lauren, because it's very interesting, especially after you mentioned that this was kind of like a experiment in a sense. So like, it's very interesting that like it's a touching subject, and it's good, like as creative, especially as filmmakers, like the most important thing for us is substance, and I feel like there's a lot of substance in there. So I guess it's a two-part question. did you have this idea previously? Like how long, like I've had a short film that I've been working on for 10 fucking years, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's something that's been building up, or like, like obviously like personal experience is there, but is it something that like the core idea itself, have you been, developing that for a while, or was it really like we're gonna do this, like a pressure thing? And then the second part of the question is like, how long was the production itself, overall, like between pre-production and then, post-production, like the whole, two-part question.
Yeah, I don't think we had like any sense of when we'd actually film this, but the idea came like somewhat fast, I'd say, to us.
Yeah, like we moved out there and we felt like this was something that we were supposed to do ASAP. Like everyone we knew who was graduating was making a web series, so we're like, okay, we will do one as well.
We initially met in like October after we graduated, and we're like, we should make something. And our first idea was absolute garbage, but the heart was there.
Yeah.
And so during like all of winter, we just sat down and were like, what's important to us? What can we relate to? And who are the characters we want to explore? They're very similar to who we are as people. So we're like, what if we put ourselves in certain situations and made fun of LA in the process? Because, the salt lamp stuff and all that is just ridiculous, but it's real. And LA, come. But I think it just was so easy to write in such a small time period because we understood what we were doing and we felt passionate about it because it was us.
It also like became clear when it was time to do it, like even without us really pushing, because we had been casually writing this together, every week or two we'd get together and keep writing. We didn't really have a deadline, we just knew we wanted to make it. And then once COVID hit, it was kind of like, wow, we are not working or leaving the house or doing anything else, so we have way more time to write and focus, and we're like, okay, now we should shoot it. And then our shoot dates kept being pushed back because of how bad COVID was, but we ended up shooting in 6 days total, spread out over a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think you guys talked about the initial idea and the writing, and then we shot it in February of 2021. And then obviously there was like a huge lead up of the writing and pre-production to get there, but then it took even longer afterwards because we like just didn't have money. So we were just having like volunteer editors and finding people who were willing to help. And one editor starts the process and then drops out and you have to kind of start over again. And so we filmed it in February of 2021, and then the first time we showed like a final product to people was May of 2022. So it took some time, but I think we were all very passionate about it throughout and kind of never lost that sense of like being excited about getting it done.
That was honestly my biggest takeaway of this whole thing was like, how do things get done quickly? Money. That's literally the only answer. Because I was like, how am I watching something that was on set last month suddenly be on Hulu? And I was like, they have money. And we did not, once it was shot, I was like, oh my God, we're good. Like we did it, it's shot. And it's like, no, that's like the beginning of the end. Like, I just really did not know. I feel like I knew a lot about the stages between creation and shooting, but as an actor then I just leave set and I don't know until it comes out, and then like all the stages after that really surprised me on how extensive they were and very essential. Like there were some things where because we had literally $0 we were tempted to be like, does it really need like an extra go at sound or an extra go at color? And then once we got it we were like, oh my God, that was the biggest difference in the entire world, and like the things that someone just watching a show or movie is not really paying attention to, but without it lacks heart and soul, and like just from losing a couple of vibrant colors for sure.
A big thank you to Max and our other two producers, Sarah and Peter, because we are impatient children sometimes. And we're like, well, where is it?
Yeah.
And he was like,
we're like, we shot it last week.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And he had to be like, calm down. It takes time, and we're not paying anyone. So be thankful. And that was, thank you. And thank you to everyone who was kind enough to donate their time and their effort for not receiving any monetary gain in response or in return. We're thankful beyond belief. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting about this, because you also you're recent graduates, right?
We were, yes.
Drama.
It still feels like the pandemic made time change.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting because it kind of sets the tone for the times of now, right? Like where everything, like content is king. Like you have to be making stuff, creating stuff. So I think even for students coming up who are in the drama arts, to graduate and feel that we got to create a web series or we gotta just put content out there. I think it just changes everything, you know, because I know for me, I never went to drama school or anything like that, but I dabbled and dabbled in acting a little bit. And before it was like you need your headshot and you need to like go on auditions, you know, like that was the thing. And the thought of, oh no, I want to create my own content, create my own web series and put that and let that be kind of how you kickstart your career, I think is definitely a shift in how people are putting themselves out there. So congratulations.
It made me feel so much more proactive because we were doing both. Like we were also going out all day and getting very expensive headshots and meeting a million agents and like doing networking coffees and like doing that side of it in full as well. But then when we felt very like, oh, there's nothing we can do about moving that side forward. Like we can't force them to want to cast us or sign us or whatever. We were like, well, we can keep writing our show at least. And like, that's something that we are actively doing for our career that we have control over was like such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in like the total business of it. Like being rejected 24/7 is kind of the business of it until someone says yes. So I think taking control and finding what we're passionate about just keeps us so in love with what we're doing, and it's so nice to be reminded, like, why do you love doing what you do? And it's, you know, we get to create and we get to meet so many amazing people and then share it with so many amazing people. So yeah, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Well, congratulations, Chill Girl. Let's give them a round of applause. And just let us know where people can find Chill Girl if it's out.
Yes, the best thing to do is to go on Instagram at Chill Girl Web Series, which will have links to any of us as well as we'll have a link in bio to the YouTube, and it's just on YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah, our personal information's on there and all.
Great. Congratulations again, Chill Girl.